10:22, Ben and Miriam with you on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News, and we're delighted to be joined in the studio by broadcaster and journalist Carole Malone, who's giggling away tomorrow. What's got you tickled?
I can't get my chair up.
Oh.
I'm trying to get this thing up and I'm just sinking.
This new studio is lovely and it looks great, but we've established these chairs are a nightmare.
They have a mind of their own.
Here's some behind-the-scenes info for you. During the show, you'll probably see many of us, presenters and guests, just sinking down.
What's happening now? How do I get mine up?
And, of course, also joined by broadcast journalist Juditha De Silva. Good morning, Juditha.
Good morning.
What should we start with first? What about Labour? So the Home Office, I'm not sure if you saw this, Carole, but...
Just the rebrand.
They've rebranded the term illegal migration, and I'm not sure if we've got an image of it, to irregular migration. So out with illegals, in with irregular. Irregular migration, that's a more sensible way to deal with it, isn't it?
It's kind of what they're doing with everything to do with immigration at the moment. They're not actually solving the problem. They're actually trying to sweep it under the carpet. It is illegal migration, however you could. People coming across on the small boats are coming here illegally, end of story. And what Yvette Cooper has been trying to do all week by announcing this business, that they're going to give amnesty or asylum to between 70,000 and 120,000 illegal migrants. This is all just kind of trying to make it look like it's all lovely and it's all going well. It's not. It's sweeping the problem under the carpet for another day. You know, making 120,000 illegal migrants is actually against the illegal migration bill. And they're clearly trying to dismantle that so that anyone who comes here for whatever reason and however they come are going to be allowed to stay. And that's a very easy way to solve your immigration overcrowding problem. You just make them not illegal anymore.
But Juditha, language aside, there is a problem now, isn't there? We've got these 100,000 people who should have been deported to Rwanda. Now we don't have the Rwanda scheme. What is the Labour Party meant to do about this?
I actually think that what the Labour Party is setting about to do is the only way to do it. And what I mean by that is you've got to govern the politics of perception as well as practicality. Take the sting out of the conversation because it has gone from alienating who you see as migrants to actually loathing them now or feeling violent towards them. You've got to change the language of discourse in order to bring it to a point where you can be practical in your approach. What I've said before...
I don't understand that. What do you mean by that? How is that going to stop numbers?
To haggle over calling it illegal to calling it irregular, that's just approaching the conversation with a bit more of a tempered attitude. But what they've said
that's not going to change the minds of the people.
Yeah, but when it comes to... That's why I said they're attacking it on two fronts, both practically and perception-wise. When they've said that they're investing money into working with home-based organisations because they're looking to repatriation of asylum seekers, that's the way to do it, because I've spoken to migrants, I've spoken to people who've made this journey, and when you actually hear them talk, you will never stop them coming. When you say you're banning the boats or you're putting them in prisons, they don't see that as a deterrent, they see that as a temporary obstacle, because when your motivation is you see survival is over there, so two things will stop you, death or success.
What is the obstacle now? Now that, that the Labour government has made clear that the Illegal Migration Act doesn't act, Starmer might as well put an advert out and said to everyone in all of sub-Saharan Africa, come, because if you get here, you're not going to be deported. Do you truly believe...
As Keir Starmer's plan has also pointed out,
do you truly believe that the Labour Party are going to deport illegal migrants? Do you really believe that?
I do believe that they're going to repatriate them based on what they've actually pointed out. It's going to be one of the
human rights. When you can't repatriate people to unsafe countries,
that's why they said.
That was the point of Rwanda. Now we don't have a third country.
But that's the point I said. If you work with NGOs, human rights organisations, are already boots on the ground in these countries, and start helping those countries with the kind of money that they are saying they're going to pledge.
It's going to take decades.
This is a problem that will not stop. That's why I said talk to the migrants themselves, not all the big heads at the top. They will keep coming.
We stop issuing visas to
it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter.
We leave the ECHR so that the British courts can deal with the problem.
Well, turn the boats back. Put them in prisons. They won't. That is just an obstacle. It's not a deterrent.
It worked in Australia. They had a similar problem under Tony Abbott. They turned the boats back. They put migrants in very safe lifeboat-style vessels and sent them to offshore processing sites. Do you know what happened? They stopped overnight, and Abbott won election.
And, we know the Rwanda plan. The Labour keep on saying it was never going to be a deterrent. They were never going to allow it to be a deterrent because they fought it every inch of the way. Had they allowed it to pass a year and a half ago, Rwanda would have been off the ground, and we would have seen that it would have worked as a deterrent. Now there is no deterrent. This new border security force is exactly what the Tories already have.
Just a rebrand. On the issue of the ECHR, Tom Tugendhat has thrown his hat, excuse the pun, into the Tory leadership race this morning, and he says he will leave the ECHR. Is this music to the ears of Tory members, Carole?
Yeah, I think it is. I want to believe you'll do it because, I mean, Sunak was talking about the same thing before the election. I don't think Sunak was ever going to do it. I'm not sure he will. But what he says is, if an organisation, if an institution is not working for the British people, well, then leave it, walk away from it. And I think, if you did it, Farage called for a referendum last week on this, and I think it would be. I think Starmer doesn't have the guts to hold one because it would show absolutely that the British people want a deterrent.
Juditha, what do you think about the leadership race?
I think that all of that is lofty rhetoric to make you sound like you would be the leader that's listening to the party. I'll unify it. I'll do what you want. The point is, when you're a leader, you have to make tough decisions. And the key is, no matter how great you see Britain as, Britain is great because it is forged in relationships with other countries.
But the main news today is that Labour want to bring energy back to Britain to make that about our own nation, our own self-sufficiency.
Indeed.
Isn't that the opposite of what you're saying on the ECHR?
It isn't, because, like I said, you have to function in tandem with countries that are beneficial to you. If you continually make decisions that seem antagonistic to who should be your friends, your allies, your supporters, you end up isolating the country, and that is something that Britain cannot afford to do, because the nature of what has made it great historically is the relationships that have been historically forged, that they benefit from today.
But the argument, certainly amongst Conservative Party members, would be that the ECHR was set up with great intentions. It's not working anymore. It's run by judges who are far less qualified than our own.
So then push for amendments rather than saying, I don't like you because you don't give me what I want to do what I say, so I'm going on your own. You will live to regret those kinds of choices because they have a knock-on effect.
We don't need a European court to protect our human rights here. We have courts in this country, esteemed courts, esteemed judges who are perfectly capable of making and enforcing those laws. It is not for a European court to enforce, to say who we can and can't bring into this country, who we can and can't deport from this country, and yet they are sticking their oar in and doing exactly
the
that.
UK does not function in isolation, and what the ECHR is there to do is regulate legislature that looks after problems with problems with international margins sometimes require an objective entity to govern everyone on both sides. So it's not a question of taking away your autonomy as the UK. It's a question of recognizing that what you are dealing with has international ramifications.
You're living in a country that not too very long ago voted to leave the EU, and we did that for a very specific reason, because we wanted to take back control of our borders. We don't want to work with Europe on control of our borders. We want to control our own, and that is not happening.
But, Carole, isn't this just pie in the sky? Because Tugendhat has not said he will leave the ECHR.
Yeah,
he said he would consider it, which is exactly what Rishi Sunak said.
I completely get that, and I know he's saying it because he knows it's what people want to hear, and that's what the Tories...
Farage has pushed the party towards that already.
But Farage last time got a referendum on Brexit, so maybe he'll push it forward this time and get it on this.
I just find it insane, really, that illegal migration is the only crime which is encouraged by people.
Yes.
It's a crime. Coming here illegally on a boat, throwing your passport away, putting your phone in the water. Many of these people with previous criminal records. There was a young lad in Bournemouth, I think, or Portsmouth, who was killed by a guy who'd committed a double murder in Serbia. We're letting these people in at a national security risk, and it's encouraged. It's a crime. It's the only crime in the country that's encouraged. It's bizarre. Very strange.
I think it's technically it is a crime, but what they're doing is a humanitarian act of desperation, and you need to recognise that.
Not in all cases.
And so that's why you need to...
Thank you so much. Time for more later.